قسمت سوم. خب اینم که ریکوردینگ. قسمت سوم برنامه هست در مورد چگونه یک مصاحبه موثر انجام دهیم و این قسمت سوم هست. قسمت اول و دومش حالا بازم آقای دکتر به شرطی زحمت میکشن لینکشون میذارن. این برنامه 1 ساعت طول میکشه. 20 دقیقه اول جناب آقای دکتر صحبت میفرماین و بعدش هم پرسش و پاسخ. این برنامه توسط گروه کانال پاک ارگانایز شده. کانال پاک هم که میدونید از 2015 در راستای کمک به IMG های فارسی زبانان فعالیت میکنن و یک نون پروفیت ارگانایزیشن هستش. من دیگه وقت شما رو نمیگیرم و از آقای دکتر درخواست میکنم که صحبتاشون شروع کنند.
اوکی. سلام عرض شده. من اسمم بابک هستش و مدیکال دکتر هستم از بک‌گراند و 15 سال گذشته 16 سال گذشته من کارم در زمینه فارماسوتیکال کمپانیا بوده. قبل از فارماسوتیکال هم یه 5-6 سالی با پزشکان بدون مرز کار کردم خارج از ایران توی کشورهایی مثل افغانستان، اتیوپی، راشیا، جورجیا، برما, Laos, Cambodia, many countries, mainly emergency missions, refugee camps, conflict, post-conflict zones. To pharmaceutical, most of my activities was related to medical affairs. So I lead the mainly medical affairs team in Canada, in US, and now I am responsible for medical affairs team in global organization. So basically all over the world, I have the responsibility to lead the medical affairs team. But also I did some commercial leadership team. So I also manage a commercial team in pharmaceutical in Canada for a short period of time, but majority of my activities was really about medical affairs. ما این برنامه رو میذاریم برای پزشکان، فارماسیست، PhDs, even nurses that they are coming to Canada to give them another option of working because not necessarily all the medical doctors or all the PhDs or pharmacists, they work in academic centers or they work in practicing medicine centers. In US, 20 to 25% of physicians basically join pharmaceutical because this is the place that you work on a deep research, right? So you do a lot of research activities, bring new medicines to market and all that. So that's basically kind of an opportunity for physicians, even foreign physicians, to join the workforce and labor force of Canada or US or other countries. دو تا سشن قبلی basically یکیش introduction به pharmaceutical کمپانیا بود. I explained in the first one, I explained what are the roles and responsibilities, what type of jobs are available in pharmaceutical company, and that was the first session, basically give you orientation. If you want to join pharma, what type of roles are available that you can apply for, and then you can, which the link is in the chat and also in the text. Dr. Besharati has sent the links. And the second session was actually about how to do job hunting for pharmaceutical roles and any other roles, basically. So I give the basics of job hunting in Canada, specifically how you can look for the jobs and then how you can prepare yourself to find those jobs. Yeah, so that was the second session. That که لینک رو من اونجا گذاشتم براتون. حالا امیدوارم که وقت کرده باشیم اون لینک ها رو دیده باشین. اگر که ندیدین حتما بعد از این جلسه نگاهی بهشون بندازین، به خاطر اینکه این قسمت در مورد اینه که شما شروع کردین جاب هانتینگ رو you get hooked in with somebody in pharmaceutical, and you have an interview session that is coming. Yeah, so either this interview session will come in the future, or now this session is really helping you to prepare yourself for interview. I'm thinking that this interview preparation will help you even if you are going through medical practice equivalency. In some of the roles you get interview at the hospital, and this will help you to get prepared for those interview sessions as well, so in general. Yeah, so that's the session about interview. I will touch base one point around the job hunting, because that will help you in preparation of the interview as well. Okay, so that's what we're going to do today. So I pause here to see if you have any questions so far on the process, on the discussion. If not, then we jump onto conversation on interview. No question. And I do it in English mainly because, so everything is in English, all the interview preparation, all the discussions in English, but we can speak Farsi, ask questions in Farsi if you want, and all that. But I prefer to do it in English to make sure that it goes as smooth as possible and as fast as possible. Okay. Okay. So let me just quickly share my screen and touch base. So basically in the last sessions, what I did, you can see my slides. Just want a thumbs up, one thumbs up.
Yes.
Yes, okay, perfect. So what I did, I talked about the theory of job seeking, and then the sources of networking, and then start the job hunting. Basically, we did discussion. One piece that we discussed in the last session was how to construct your elevator pitch. Yeah, and this is important because the construct of elevator pitch, it will help you also for interview process. The first thing that mostly you will be asked at the interview is that introduce yourself, right? So, and this elevator pitch, if you have it ready, it helps you a lot in terms of introduction. Yeah, so when you want to do introduction, you should keep it really, elevator pitch rule is that should stay below 30 seconds, right? But for introduction, you have like maybe 1 or 2 minutes max, and you can use your elevator pitch that you already prepared to do that introduction. I just touched base on it that a construct of elevator pitch is three sections. Number one is 1 or 2 sentences about the person you are writing to or calling to or talking to, or about the organization that you are calling. For example, if you are writing to the medical director of Bristol Myers Squibb, his name is Frank Chenu. So you're saying that Frank, I just saw a post you had on a LinkedIn about a new approval of FDA on command trial, right? So I'm very interested in hematology field. I have worked in hematology field. Just recently, I have done this in a hematology field. So the first sentence is about them. Second sentence is about you, explaining experience that you have related to the first sentence that you mentioned. Yeah, so that's kind of how you construct your elevator pitch to hook the person to become interested to talk to you. And the third piece is really about closing. Ask for 15 minutes introduction meeting or meeting to talk about how you can offer your services. Not necessarily need to mention you are looking for a job. Yeah. And in the slide, I put some templates related to the elevator pitch. In the interview, there is no closing. So you go through the introduction, you say that who you are related to the job that you applied for, because you are going through interview. So you make sure that you focus your piece of introduction on the skills and expertise that you have for the job that you apply for. And at the end, you say, is there a place, instead of closing, say, send me a 15 minutes introduction. At the end of introduction, you say, is there a place that you want me to elaborate more, right? So you ask that question to the interviewer. So you can always ask that, and then it helps engage them into the conversation if they have any questions or anything like that. These are some examples of elevator pitch. Again, is available through the video that you have, and also the slides I'm gonna send it after the call. Okay, so that's elevator pitch. Now let's jump into interview process. Yeah. So in the interview preparation, I think the number one thing that you have to prepare yourself is that do your research on the organization and a company that you are getting an interview. Yeah, so where you can get information about the company, you can get information from annual reports that are available on the website of the company, and these are big source of information. Yeah, so the annual reports, normally it's you can find it either on the general information of the company, or you can find it on the investor links, because most of these companies are public company and they have a link for investors, you know, so people who buy the stocks, and annual reports normally sits there in that part of the organization. So upload them. Look at, like, you know, last 2 years annual reports. Yeah, so there are also quarterly reports of the company, like last quarter how the company delivered. Yeah, and in there not only you have a sales information and revenue information, but you also have everything about the products, the disease area, the vision, the strategy of the company, the mission of the company, what disease areas they are working, what type of products are coming, what type of launches are happening in this company. So you have a lot of information. So you need to really read a lot about that organization. And also you can read about the people who are going to interview you, right? So on the LinkedIn, you see if they are top executive of the company, what is their role and responsibility and all that. And then use your network to get more information about people who are going to interview you. Because if you know their background, you can predict, you know, so what type of question they would ask, you know, so, or they might come up as a question. Okay. And I put it that do not simply research the company in isolation. Look at the whole industry, see where it fits in, who is the main competitors, and look at the industry trends. Like, for example, if you are applying, again, I use the hematology field. If you are applying for a hematology role in Bristol-Myers Squibb, look at who else works in hematology area. If you are working, applying to a CAR-T therapy in hematology, look who else has a CAR-T therapy in the field of treatment and management of hematological cancers. Yeah, so look at the holistic approach, get a lot of information. The other source that is publicly available is we call it product monograph of the product. So in Canada, every molecule, every medicine that is become available, Health Canada produce a product monograph that talks about the label of the product. So what is the indication of this medicine in use? So when you apply for interview is on a specific products, upload that product monograph from Health Canada website, and even you just simply Google it and it will pop up. Product monograph of product X in Canada, you Google it, it will pop up, and then read the product monograph. In product monograph, not only talks about the indication, but also provides all the clinical trial results in the product monograph. So familiarize yourself to the product monograph really well. Okay, so that's in terms of preparation. Now the big part of it, so how can we minimize this? So, sorry, it's a busy slide, but let me see. Maybe I can do it here. Okay, better. Okay, better. So can you see the slide very well? Okay, so there are 3 key points for interview preparation, 1, 2, and 3. And I want to walk you through each of them a little bit in depth, right? So the first one, we already talked about it. Use your elevator pitch for 2 minutes introduction, and I explain how to use it. Yeah, so basically introduce yourself, make sure that you emphasize on on an area of skills that you have related to the job that you apply, emphasize on those elements, and make sure that at the end, say that, is there any places in my resume that you want me to elaborate more, right? So really ask open-ended question is very important at the end of each question that you answer to make sure that you can engage the interviewer. Number two, I call it a practice on a golden statement for any question. And I explain it to you a little bit on that, you know. So the golden statement basically is a statement to answer any question that will set the stage for you where you are going to answer this question. Yes, so what you are going to explain, what type of example you are going to give. And that golden statement basically, again, hooks in the interviewer and make sure it's kind of like a preview. It gives a preview about the answer that you are going to give. Yeah. So I give you a few examples. First, I put it there that never use a negative word in your response, even prompted in the question as a negative. You know. So I give you an example. They might ask you, "Have ever happened that you dislike something at work?" Yeah. So instead of jumping in and say, yeah, sometimes happen that, you know, you have a disagreement with somebody at work, or somebody say something to you and then you don't like it. So these are all negative words that you use. Instead of that, you use the golden statement and turn that negative into a positive statement. For example, if they ask you this, have you ever disliked something in the place that you work? You can say, the work in working in medical field is a very dynamic work, and there is always diversity of opinions. Yeah. For example, you know, and then you give an example that there was a diversity of opinion or different thinking between you and somebody else, and at the end, with this different thinking, you end up having a better solution for a problem that you give in the example, right? So that golden statement is exactly that one. That say it's a dynamic work in a medical field, and there is a diversity of opinion. And then you can even say that I believe, depending on the example that you want to use, I believe that diversity of opinion brings innovation. So it means that you're going to give an example to this interviewer that there was a different opinion in a certain problem. And then when you worked on it, at the end, you come up with a very innovative solution because you take care of that diversity of opinion very well, right? So that's the way that you approach any questions, you know. So try to, this is an art of the language, I would say, that you really use to make sure that you know, so you turn the question towards the example that you want to give. Yeah. So that's very important, and you need to practice that. You know, you need to practice based on the question. So after this call, I'm gonna send a file that includes all the questions, potential questions that you might receive during an interview. So you can look at those questions and then see, okay, can I turn this with a golden statement to something positive? Yeah. And then on the third piece, I'm gonna teach you how to prepare some of the examples. Yeah. So, and if you have many examples available, I can guarantee that there will be no questions that you will be caught off guard. Yeah. So in the interview, because you will find a way to turn that question, yeah, and link it and bridge it to one of the examples that you already prepared. Yeah. So even if they ask questions that is not part of the interview questions that I'm going to send you, you will be able, by golden statement, turn it to a point and bridge that question to answer it with the example that you already prepared. Yeah. So, and you have it handy or memorized it. So that's basically very important. One thing that I forgot to mention in the beginning is that when we say, you know, most of us either come very as an expert to Canada, or we are very much have a lot of experience working in different places. You know, almost all of us. But when we came to Canada, you have seen, I use the analogy of doing a driving license exam. Yeah, so we drive for like 20 years in our home country, and we came here and they asked us to pass the exam and then do the also driving test and do everything that an 18 years old is supposed to do, right? And we basically, what we do there is like respecting few things to make sure that that examiner obviously validate that we are okay to drive in Canada, right? So it's like, you know, checking the blind spot, you know, making a flasher, you know. So there are certain things that you need to respect to be able to get your driving license in Canada. Doing an interview is exactly the same thing. You know, you need to respect a few things structurally to make sure that, you know, interviewer feels that you are already integrated into Canadian environment. Yeah, and this is very important. Yeah, because if you don't respect some of these elements that I am mentioning here, whoever is sitting there, it might be a human resource sitting there, it might be an interviewer that is grow up in Canada or, you know, work in Canada for a long period of time. So they won't get that connectivity with you in terms of being integrated into Canadian environment. And as a consequence, they will not look at favorably to your candidacy compared to other people that respect these things, exactly like a driving license exam. Yeah, so that's very important. So the reason that I'm giving some structure to the interviews is because of that. I want to make sure that if you go through an interview, you are able to provide a succinct story, but also demonstrate that you're already integrated into Canadian environment. So that's one. So now let's jump into the third bullet point, which is prepare at least 10-star story or example. Yeah. So I put the star because a star stands for situation, target, action, and result. Yeah. So situation, target, action, and result. And you need to prepare 10 stories or, you know, even 20 stories as much as you can and write them down, you know. So write them down for yourself to make sure that you can use them in a very succinct manner. You know, whenever is a time for interview, you can use any of these stories related to the question as you turn the question and bridge it with a golden statement. Yeah. And you have to deliver that example in less than 1 minute. Yeah. So it's very important. That's why I even put the situation. It's very important you give the situation in maximum 1 sentence. Sometimes it's a 1 word. Yeah. So like, what was the situation? What was the problem? Right. So explain the situation. Then say what was your target for that situation, like to meet the deadline. It's sometimes 1 word. Yeah. So like, let's go and then action, maximum 3 sentences on action. So the longest part of the star story is the action. And I put a few points there to make sure that you respect when you put the actions in place, you have to respect some of these points. Yeah. So number 1 is that own it, meaning that say, I did it. Yeah. So I did put the team together. I put the team together and make this project, lead this project. Yeah. So own it. Make sure that you can own this activity and you say you did it. Because sometimes people come and say, my manager asked me to do this and then I did it. Instead of saying that, say that I decided to do this. That's one. But right after that, you need to mention that you work with the team, you know, talk about the team. You work with the team, you put the team together, you make sure that everybody as a team work together, the roles and responsibilities were clear, objective of the team was clear, the project, the timeline was clear for the, so you made it clear for the team, and then you moved on the project. Yeah. So talk about the team work that you have done, and then teamwork, and provide concretely what was your thinking process. And this is important. So I repeat that many times to people because I use the word we have a tendency to say حسین کورت بگیم توی اگزمپلمون. yeah. So طولانی میکنیم، آب و تاب بهش میدیم و اینا. ولی کن what is important is that is not interviewer, they are not interested into the content of your activity. The content is not so important. If you're talking about innovation, either you created a new digital tool that you patented that new digital tool, and then you use that patent and then sold it to Apple to be used in Apple Watch. It's a very important content and it's significant innovation, versus, you know, if you simplify a process in a hospital to make the patient flow much more smoother, is also an innovation, but there are significant difference between the content, but that's not so important for the interviewer. What is so important is that how did you do it? You know, so what was your thinking process to make sure that that innovation will happen? Yeah, so that's more important than the content itself. Yeah, so just telling them that the idea came from this, that I had an idea, but then I make sure that I get a buy-in from different team members, you know, to different stakeholders within the hospital, within the organization. Then I work with the experts of algorithm, because I am not an expert of developing an algorithm, for example, for that tool. And then I did a study for that algorithm. We put a study team together, and I make sure that the deadline is respected. Yeah, so, and everything was really respected. So that thinking process is more important than what is really happened as a content for that innovation. So that's why it's very critical that, you know, so for your stories that you are providing, think about how you did it. Yeah, so rather than what you did, is more important to see how you did it. Yeah, so, and give some thinking around how you did that. You know, what was the process, your thinking process of doing that? Yeah, so that's really critical to write it down and think, go back and say, okay, I did this, I can answer this really quickly because I have done this. But instead of just giving the content of what you did, think about what was the process that you went through, right? So to do that, and then make sure that link it to the goal statement, you know, because you can say, as a consequence, you know, of this diversity of opinion, you know, we made this innovation, right? And you give the results, yeah, at the end, and maybe it's one sentence. So all of that can happen under 1 minute. Yeah, and when you finish, you say, is there any part of this example that you want me to elaborate? Yeah, and then let them ask the question. So don't give away everything in your example, and then pause and ask them, is there any place that you want to focus, or you want me to elaborate more on this? Okay, so that's basically the core function of interview questions. Yeah, so I actually have you know, for example, when I send you the question, and you will see that there are many type of questions that can come in interview, and some of you might have questions around those interview questions. You know, so how we respond this, you know, because some of them are not about you know, give examples. For example, the second question here, it says, why do or did you leave your job? Yeah, so for most of us, you know, it's clear, because if is your first job in Canada, you are saying that I moved to Canada. But sometimes it's like you are already working in a research or academic center in a research or doing something, and now you are applying and they're asking you, why did you leave your job? So I can provide answers to some of these questions as well throughout this discussion, but we are at what time is it? We are at 7:35, so I want to pause here to see if you have any questions so far on this. And I'm going to remove the stop sharing to make sure that I can see you, and then I can go back on the questions, and maybe we can review some of the questions to see if you are interested to hear some of the answers to those questions. So any question?
Can I ask a question, Bobek?
Yes, please.
Thank you very much for your comprehensive presentation and the effort you already put through that. So, as I heard you mentioned, avoid using negative statements or negative words. And aligned with what you said, I already studied some articles or some training regarding that. I come over to one very strange word that considered as a negative word, and that was challenge, which you already mentioned in your question.
Yeah.
Usually, as I look in job descriptions or the requested skills from the recruiters or hiring managers, challenging the situation or being able to resolve a challenge or even challenging the status quo in order to develop a better or an optimal situation. It's always admired to use challenge or be a challenge resolver. But I see that challenge is considered as a negative word. So can you elaborate more over this?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So exactly. So I mean, again, so you're right. You know, challenge and opportunity always goes hand to hand, right? So whenever there is a challenge, there is opportunity. Yeah. So you can turn challenge into an opportunity in any conversation you have. So there are levels of negativity. Yeah. So they can, if they ask dislike, if they ask conflict, if they ask, you know, have you ever be against your boss? You know, so they are like, they go directly into the negative. But sometimes they ask, you know, have you ever had a challenge in the work? But the reason I am saying that this is kind of throwing you into the negativity, because sometimes we start, yeah, for example, you know, I heard, you know, I'm doing this for 8 years and I talked to many people in terms of interviews. Sometimes I hear, yeah, we come from Iran and Iran is a challenging environment. Yeah. So there is always something going on, you know, things are going up and down, and we work in that environment. So we can manage challenge very well. So you see, you trap into a negative, providing a negative consequence or fear of negativity. Yeah. So that's kind of, so I want you to avoid to fall into that trap. Yeah. So that's the reason I put it in the challenge as something that you can change challenge into dynamic. You know, I work in a very dynamic environment. Yeah. So it's a very more positive than challenge, you know, let's put it that way. So that's the reason I am saying that, you know, try to make sure that you don't fall into that negativity at the end. Whenever they ask challenge, you know, we have a tendency to go back, you know, say, yeah, we studied in medicine in a very challenging environment. We had patient left and right, you know, we had faced, you know, situations that the patients are screaming at us, you know, so all those kind. So we have a tendency to go back to those examples. I try to, again, the content is not so important. It's important that how you position it. Yeah. So that's the reason I mentioned. But you are right. Challenge is not a very negative word. Actually, it's something that we are looking to identify people that they are change agile and they can manage challenges really well, right? So another terminology that you can use is that I worked in a very change agile environment. Yeah, so change agile. So these are other words that you can use. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you very much. Clear.
Anything else? Any other question? You or anyone else? So is there anyone that has been through interview so far? Yeah, so or get an interview or did an interview so far. Is there anyone on the call today that have been interviewed? Not so. I think you should go back to the first two sessions that I have, how to find a job and how to approach people to get an interview, right? So that's good. Do you have a question? I think you went on mute, yeah? What is it, Agila?
نه دکتر این من هستم دکتر میخواستم همینه بگم اگر کسی یا سوال دارن یا میتونن بپرسن میتونن بنویسن در چات.
Yeah. So اگر که سوالی نیست, maybe I can show you a few questions of interview. اگر سوالی نداریم so far on this, maybe it will help, you know, so to stipulate some questions. Let me see if I can, because I didn't want to go through like a detailed questions, but interview question workshop. So what the file that I will share with you will be two files. There is a master interview questionnaire that includes all the questions, potential questions that they might ask you. Yeah, so none of them has answer, because you know it's impossible to provide a classic answer to all those questions. Yeah, because they all should have an example, you know. So, and then example is all relevant to you. But and then there is this file which is in a workshop type. Yeah, so I group the question in a workshop, and then so for example, why do you leave your job, or did you leave your job? Yeah, so when they ask this question, so first thing is first, just keeping that golden statement in mind. You know, you should never bitch about your previous job. You never say any bad things. Actually, you should start saying that I am very satisfied with what I am doing today. Yeah. It's a very dynamic work. It's a very much engaging work. You know, I'm providing services to patients. You know, I'm providing care to patients. You know, whatever it is, give few words about the job that you are doing. Yeah, it's few positive words. Yeah, so but I am ambitious. Yes, I am ambitious. My skills, my experiences, it's very much match with the job that I am applying today, right? So, and I want to come to your organization and work in this role to make sure that I can contribute and use the experiences that I have. Yeah. So that's basically kind of a standard answer for this question. Yeah. So to make sure that, you know, you never talk about negative about your previous role. You say, you know, my manager, I heard a lot of this, even in the interview, like my manager is not a good manager. He's just recently came in, you know, he's like, you know, very detail oriented. I really can't work for him, you know, those kind of things. Yeah. So you never go about this. But also for most of you, as you moved from Iran to Canada, you have a good explanation to give. You say that I have moved to Canada, but you can explain about the job that you had. I was working there, it was really good, you know, but we decided to move to Canada and then join a pharmaceutical company, for example, in Canada, to use my experiences and expertise that I had in other places. Let me move a little bit more. See what do you feel you can bring to this job? If you join our company, how you see yourself in 5 years? What do you see as a challenge in this job? Okay, so let me talk about the second one, because it's relevant to why did you leave your job. Yeah, so it's a little bit similar, right? So when they ask if you join our company, how you see yourself in 5 years, first you need to talk about the current job that you applied. Yeah, so you need to say, I am very engaged and happy that I am getting interview for this job, because I believe that my experience, my work that I have done before will contribute a lot to this current job. And I want to make sure that I over-deliver and over-perform in this job and showcase my capabilities. Yeah. And 5 years from now, I am ambitious. I'm going to sit with you, with my manager, and then talk about, you know, what could be other opportunities within the organization that I can use my capabilities further, right? But first thing, I want to make sure that I can deliver in the current job. Yeah, so I can deliver, perform, and do the job really well. So that's kind of similar. You need to first talk about the current job, and then they say, you know, you are ambitious, and then you're going to make sure that you can contribute further to the mission of the organization. Yeah. Try to avoid sometimes they ask questions more trickier. They say, do you want to take my role in 5 years? Yeah, so like the interviewer, you know, I'm your manager. Do you want to take my role? What do you think about that? So your answer should be the same, you know. So doesn't mean that I want to grow vertically, you know, even if there is a horizontal approach in terms of job opportunities, I want to take on those positions as well, you know, to make sure that I can contribute more to the mission of the organization. Any questions on this two so far? No? So I just go down and see if you have. Okay, so what normally we have to do here is that to talk about, you know, what was the area of a strength that was highlighted by your manager, and what was the area of improvement. See, I am using a very nice word instead of weakness, because weakness is negative. I use a word of what was the area of improvement. Yeah, and then you need to use the area of improvement, give one example of area of improvement, two example of area of strength. Yeah, and normally for area of strength, it's better that you mention one thing that is one is a hard skills and one soft skill. Yeah, so hard skill is your technical capability, you know. So if you are a researcher, if you are a scientist, you know, talk about, you know, the research that you did, the publication that you did. And the soft skills is your people skills, you know, your matrix team skills, your innovative thinking skills, you know. So given one area of strength of soft skill and one area of strength of hard skill, and then give one area of improvement, but make sure that you say they give you that area of improvement as a feedback, but you worked on it and now you are in a better shape, you know. Make sure that you complete that, you know. We live in Montreal, so most of the time when they ask me, I was talking about my French, you know. So I'm working on my French, and I have been getting some classes, and then now I am better. I can present now in French. Yeah, so that was like kind of things that I use. You can use lots of other things, you know. So otherwise I have been told that I am very a speedy person. I move fast, and sometimes I left behind the team. Yeah, so now I work on it. I make sure that the team has buying, and then we all move with the same speed, you know. So this kind of. So you have to provide one area of improvement and make sure that you close the loop on it, you know, when you. Same thing for the second one. How would your colleagues describe you? They are looking for you to say one or two area of strength and one area of improvement. Yeah. So you need to say proactively. Don't wait for them to ask, okay, did they mention something that is your weakness? Don't wait for them. You say proactively and you close the loop proactively. Like this, that's the way they like it. Yeah. So you are honest and transparent about it. Yeah. So that's that. So we have only 10 minutes. So I just want to make sure that, you know, I don't exhaust you with all of this. Is there any questions here that you want me to provide answer here? What is your management style? Please forget it, because right now you are not going into that route. Tell me about the situation that you had to take a difficult decision at work. This is also because of management mainly. They want to know if you putting somebody on a performance indicator and all that, and what salary you are expecting. Yeah, and for what salary, you know that you should never give a number. You should always say that I am very engaged with this role. Salary is my last priority. I really want to be part of the mission of the organization, and I'm looking for a fair wage, fair salary. They can ask 3 times and you can answer 3 times same thing differently. Yeah, but you never give a number, right? So, and especially for you that you come just, this is your first role, you might be completely off in terms of even lower than expected or higher than expected. And for that reason, they're gonna know that you have no idea about this job, right? So that's why it's better not to give a number, by all means. Yeah, under stress, and how do you get the best out of people? How do you resolve conflict in your team? And these are so I will again pause here and come back. I stop sharing to see if any questions. So how did you find it? Is it useful? The conversation we have, is there everybody that are on the call, are you interested to join pharma overall, or is just something that
Yes.
you are looking into?
I am really interested, and I find it very, very good and helpful. I have a question. I don't know if I can ask it now or later.
Sure. No, please go ahead. We have
What
only 10 minutes. Yes.
Thank you. What I had trouble with it was that I was working in research in one PI, and sometimes when you work so hard, and they are like, their studies are dependent on you, they don't want you to go. So it is difficult to get like a recommendation letter from them because they don't want to let you know, let you go.
Yeah.
So how we can, manage this obstacle?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and I have developed 4 modules, for this. So this 1, 2, and 3, and the 4th one is for people who are on the job, and I help them and coach them to grow faster on the job, right? So, and that's one of the common denominator of the question that I receive from people that I work with. Yeah, so they say, my manager is not supporting me, he's not helping me, so he's not helping me to, even it's not a recommendation. It's like, you want this person actually to become your advocate for your next role, so that's a very big difference, so it's a whole module on that. Yeah, so we can talk separately if you are still on the job. So that's kind of, I wanted to say on the closing. So you can connect with me on a LinkedIn, so, and I spend time with people on a separate note, on individual basis, to help them to how all these 4 modules, so
Thank you.
first of all, the job hunting, so as you develop your elevator pitch, you reach out to the people. If you have question, you can send me the question. I will answer right away. Sure. Over LinkedIn. And then the second piece is that if you get an interview, I can do the role play with you on an interview depending on a job. Yeah, so we really do a hand holding on this to make sure that you're going to get the job, because
thank you.
You don't get a lot of opportunity to get an interview, and I want to make sure that when you get that, you get the job, or at least make it very difficult for the person to choose somebody else. So like this, it will remain in their head, because if they choose somebody else with more experience in Canada, or maybe internally, because most of the time you lose the battle to the internal people who applied. Yeah, so internal people are familiar with the systems when I say internal, within that organization. But at least you remain, you should do an interview really good, excellent. You have to be like 10% above the average, or above average. Like this, remain in the head of the person. Next time the position comes, they will contact you, directly. So that's how you should do it. So I do a lot of hand-holding, and on that one, I can help you a lot as well, because there is a process, to shift the mindset of your manager, to go through a situation that they are not recommending you, or they are not supporting you, to become your advocate. Yeah, actually. And there is a process that you can do that, and you can do it in 6 months. It's not very far. Yeah. So if you follow that process, it's a very structured way of, we call it a stakeholder management. You manage your stakeholder within the organization. And we develop a tool to do that. Yeah. So
thank you very much.
No problem. So connect with me on LinkedIn, and I can help you with that.
Sure. Thank you.
Any other question?
دوستان میتونن سوالایشون در چت هم بنویسن، اگر نمیخوان مستقیم بپرسن میتونن بنویسن.
حتی personal question هم در مورد کارمندانین I am open to answer. Anything. Yeah, so now you have a time, just ask the question. Anything you have. You want to know about the perspective of the roles in pharma, what medical doctors, how far they can go, what they can do. I can provide answers to that as well. Or, you can join me on LinkedIn, and then individually I will provide you answers to your questions.
دوستان میتونن سوالایشون رو فارسی هم بپرسن، مشکلی نیست.
بله بله 100%. No?
If nobody has any question, I can ask another question. Sorry.
Yeah, I think Bijan wanted to
But
ask a
I will give
question.
the
Yeah?
priority to other people. I
Just
don't
hold
want...
on for
Sure, of
Bijan and
course.
then you. Yeah. Go ahead. بفرمایید.
خواهش میکنم. سلام، من ببخشید دیر به گروه پیوستم. اینه که مطمئن نیستم سوالم قبلا کسی سوال پرسیده جوابش رو
بفرمایید.
میپرسم. وقتیه که من حالا یه مصاحبه دارم به زودی احتمالاً توی همون زمینه کاری هست که توی شرکتی که کار میکردم مرتبطه. وقتی که بخوام از به اصطلاح منیجر قبلیم درخواست بکنم برای یه نامه رفرنس، چون کامپتیتور اون شرکت هست یه کمی
So I got you. So the process of recruiting people, this is very different. So let me describe it for you. So ببینید شما به جاب که اپلای میکنین، اینترویو میشین برای اون جاب، بعد به شما آفر رو میدن. Okay? Only on that moment they are asking for referral, and they are not allowed to go to your manager or your current job to get the referral, right? So you should give them a referral from other jobs that you have, right? The fact that you are coming from the same field, they know that you are working already there, so then it's a very normal. And they are not allowed to go and talk to your manager. It's like a confidential. All the process of interview until they give you an offer. And even if they give you an offer, until they didn't give you the offer, then you are not sure that they're gonna even select you. So you don't need to go to your manager and get a referral, right? So the fact that in your resume you already have that you are working there, it's already a point for them. It's a given, you know. So it's a given that you are working in the same field, you are doing that. Then they're gonna do the reference check, and even at that moment, they cannot go to your current job and ask the question because this is confidential. They might do the reference check and then come back and they say they don't want you. Then you will lose your job on other places. I mean, not always this is what happens. You lose your job. To me, happened once that you know, I was getting interviewed by a wife of my manager, and I didn't know is his wife. But then they talked to each other, and it was not confidential, but it worked towards my benefit because my manager come to me. So why you are applying? I say, you know, because I'm looking for a better position, and then he give me that position. So that's not always is the same situation, but overall is confidential, right? So they cannot go back to your manager, and you don't need a referral from your manager to apply to a job or go through the interview. You have to wait until the end, and then you give the referrals, and normally is outside the work that you are doing today. Is that clear? بفرمایید بیژن. بازم سوال داریم؟
یه سوال دیگه. وقتی هست که شما یه نان دیسکلوزر اگریمنت هم امضا کردین با به اصطلاح منیجر خودتون، حالا توی یه مصاحبه‌ای که قرار انجام بشه، مردش خیلی باریکه، سوالایی که ممکنه بکنن که شما چی کارا کردید و چه جوری میشه نویگیت کرد.
خب من اینو تقریبا اونجوری بهتون جواب میدم که همونجوری که گفتم، کانتنت زیاد مهم نیست توی سوالایی که میکنن ازتون. کانتنت که چیو بگین، اینکه پروسس آف تینکینگتون چیه is more important. اگزمپل هایی که میدین، درسته؟ به خاطر همین شما خیلی راحت میتونید چیزایی رو که نباید دیسکلوز کنید دیسکلوز نکنید، ولی پروسس اپروچتون رو به اون سوال و پرابلم توضیح بدید. برای همین باید اون استوریاتون رو خیلی کلیر بنویسین، مکشور کنین که کانتنتی رو که نباید دیسکلوز کنین توش نیست، ولی اون تینکینگ پروسس کاملا توشه و اون خیلی مهمه برای اینترویور. و هر وقتم به اونجایی رسیدین که مرز بین اینه که فکر میکنین دارین یه چیز رو دیسکلوز میکنین، میتونین بگین this is a confidential information, I cannot disclose it. You can say it as well and they understand that and they will respect that as well, you know. So just to make sure.
دکتر به زحمت اگه بفرمایید چطور این یه سوال هست که لینکدین شما
بله لینکدین شما اولا باید همتون پروفایل لینکدین داشته باشین خودتون. اگر ندارین this is the first thing, you know, so the first thing that we do is that we prepare your resume, make sure that your resume is uploaded in the LinkedIn and you have a profile in the LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a professional social media that is only for professionals, and that's the only tool that today, the most important tool that today everybody uses to find talent, find people. Yeah, so all the companies in Canada, in US, the first place that they go and look is in the LinkedIn. They can when they buy the companies, they buy a right to do the analysis on the profile of the people on a LinkedIn, and they have a list of talents. They have a job opening, they have a list of talents, and then they reach out to those people or talents that are matches with them. So you have to have the LinkedIn profile yourself. When you have a LinkedIn profile, then you can connect with me. Put my name, Bobek Abbas Zade, MD, and then I will pop up. You connect with me. I have 5,000 connections, something like that. So with me, then you get more connections as well in Canada, in US. So that's another way of connecting with other people, because you can go through my profile, you apply to a job in AstraZeneca, you're going to come see my profile, you see that I have 2 connections in AstraZeneca. So you ask me, I have applied, can you recommend me? Or can you help me to know more about this person that is interviewing me? You know, so then I can help you with that. So, but you have to have a LinkedIn profile and then connect with me.
فکر کنم قبل آقای دکتر خانم دکتر عربی میخواستن یه سوال دیگه هم بپرسن. بفرمایید.
سلام، اگه کسی دیگه نیست که سوال داشته باشه، چون من یه بار حقم استفاده کردم.
نخواهش کنم، بفرمایید.
My question is that is it wise to apply for like a subspecialty in pharmaceutical companies? Like, for example, specifically my background is in breast cancer, okay, and I really want to work in with the pharma studies about breast cancer. Is it doable to just do it, like just looking for something that is related to breast cancer, or it's just something that, you know, ruins my opportunity for other stuff, and I have to be a little bit broader, and then
so man, I don't know all of your profile completely, but just generally speaking, first of all, anything related to cancer, you should apply for sure, anything, because you have expertise in cancer and your chances is higher if you get an interview, right? So because you have an expertise in cancer, right? So all cancers, you know, so definitely all cancer. But that doesn't prevent you, for example, to apply for hematology cancers, you know, so doesn't prevent you to you work on breast, you know, in the companies that work on a women health.
Yes.
Right? So these are like other places that you can continue to apply as well, right? So don't limit yourself to your specialty. You have a better chance to get a job on your specialty, definitely, because you have that specialty and you can talk a lot about it, give a lot of experience, examples and all that, but don't limit yourself to those. Sure. And then, to be honest, anything you can get, just get the job, and then after you can optimize it and go and work in a place that it's your expertise, you know, get a job, put your step in the pharma, and then after you can see where you can go with your breast cancer expertise, you know, so.
Okay, should I hide my subspecialty or not?
No,
it's okay if I say that I have worked in this.
You have to send me your resume. I mean, again, that's what we do. I have a person that works with me that look at the resume and then help you to kind of streamline it, to make sure that you don't hide anything, but at the same time you don't over specify it. Yeah. So,
okay, appreciate it. Thank you very much.
No problem. Anything else? I know we are on time, but I just want to make sure that now we have a chance. If there is any other last question, I can answer, and then other than that, we can move on.
فقط میخواستم یه چیز دیگر منشن کنم که این پارت 1 و 2 قسمت 1 و 2 این برنامه هم الان لینکش در چت هست، اگه دوستان خواستن از اونجا میتونن اپروچ کنن.
Just listen to it, and then if you have questions, just send me a note on LinkedIn and I will respond. Good. Perfect. So good luck with your job hunting. I know it's tough, but you know, I'm doing this for 8 years. It's evidence-based that, you know, everybody who follow the structure, I think 90% success rate that they get a job. In pharma, they start working. If you have some research background, if you don't have limitation in the language in terms of speaking and English or French, if you don't have those limitations, most people that I work with, they got a job. Yeah, so sometimes it takes 2 months, sometimes it takes 6 months, sometimes it takes 1 year, but it happened. Yeah, so it's a very, very successful process, and they need doctors. They need medical background people in pharmaceutical, both in Canada and in US specifically they need, but US, you cannot, it's very hard to apply if you are not a citizen yet. As soon as you become citizen, then US is open up other opportunities, many more opportunities in US, yeah? Good. So thanks a lot, and then connect with me if you have any questions, and I will follow through.
You're welcome.
Perfect.
خب خیلی ممنون از جناب آقای دکتر که وقتشون در اختیار دوستان گذاشتن و راهنمایی فرمودن. این برنامه همونجور که میدونید ضبط شده و در کانال پاک در گروه تلگرامی اونجا گذاشته میشه. از اونجا هم میتونید هم قسمت‌های اول دوم و هم این قسمت سوم دوباره ببینید یا گوش کنید. خب خیلی ممنون از دوستان که شرکت کردن. حالا انشالله بازم برنامه‌های بعدی توسط گروه اعلام میشه که شاید قسمت دیگه بازم در خدمت آقای دکتر عباس زاده باشیم. انشالله که بتونیم استفاده کنیم.
حتما. مراقب خودتون باشید. Good luck.
سلامت باشید.